Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome back to USTA Florida's Here to Serve podcast. My name is Laura Bowen, and I'm the Executive Director at USTA Florida. Today, I am pleased to be here at the Jimmy Evert Tennis Center at Holiday Park in Fort Lauderdale, and we have quite an episode for you. I'm joined by Doug Wiley, the chair of the Orange Bowl International Tennis Championships, Eric Poms, the CEO of the Orange Bowl, and Scott Pukys, the Director of Tennis right here at Jimmy Evert Tennis Center. Today, we're going to talk about this place becoming the new home for the Orange Bowl this December, and the changes you're going to see when you walk into this best-in-class tennis center. We'll talk about the history and the legends that played on this court, and we'll have some exciting sneak peeks at what you can expect in December when you come watch the best juniors in the world take to these courts. Enjoy this episode, and don't forget to check USTAFlorida.com/here to serve for all other podcast topics and dates. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining me here today. What a beautiful day at Jimmy Evert Tennis Center. Thank you, Scott, for ordering the weather for us. I appreciate that.
Oh, anytime. Yeah, I'll do what I can.
Well, I want to start today with a little bit of the history behind this tennis center in this park. So when we think back to 1958, right, Jimmy Evert was the first director that opened this tennis center. And I want to start with you, Doug, because you knew Jimmy really well. Do you think that anybody had a thought back then that this public tennis center would hold such an indelible place in the history of tennis, not just in Florida, but around the world? Was that like even a glimmer in anybody's mind when you think back to your history with Jimmy?
Well, let me first say, Laura, as old as I am, I was not here in 1958. But no, when the facility first opened, I doubt it. And there's no question, Mr. Evert built this facility. I mean, he made it into what it was. And when you look, it didn't help or hurt, of course, that he developed an 18-time Grand Slam champion. But it wasn't just Chris. There were so many other great players that came through Holiday Park. It was known as Holiday Park at the time, before the Jimmy Evert Tennis era. And I mean, the Solomon family, the Godfreys, Brian and Larry, the Rowleys, and in addition to, a lot of pro players that went on to become tennis professionals, these scores of college tennis players. And so this facility really became the mecca of tennis in South Florida, and maybe not just South Florida, but maybe the entire country. And I would talk with people from Paris, and they would say they were familiar. They knew Holiday Park, and they knew this tennis facility, and they knew the tennis center, and they knew the history. So in my mind, when it first opened, I doubted me. But what an incredible job Mr. Evert, the Evert family had done. Mr. Barrett.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing it. Scott, Eric, anything you would add to that in terms of looking back on the history of this tennis center? Any special moments that come to mind for you all?
Well, we were fortunate enough to have Chrissy here one day when she was shooting a documentary, and she was sharing some stories. And one of the stories that stood out in my mind was the time when she was just 13 years old, playing a tournament, and she lost to this woman. We had this picture of this woman in our lobby forever, and most of us didn't know who the woman was, but when Chrissy came by, she knew exactly who it was, and she reminisced about this story when she was 13 years old, playing this woman and losing to her in 3 sets. And at the time, that woman was number 5 in the world, and Chrissy shared with us that was the moment she knew she could go on and really play with the professionals and play with the best of the world, and she certainly did that. So that would have been, that 1958, she was, so probably late 60s, 1968 when that happened. So yeah, pretty incredible story there.
I think that's a great lesson for the kids that come out and play here is, and we talked about this when we met with Mary Jo and Marty Fish, and the moments that happen when you're young and you're playing on these public courts really define a lot of these championship players later. They talk about them all the time. So I appreciate you sharing that with us and hearing that from Chrissy.
Yeah.
Eric, how about you?
Well, I didn't know Jimmy Evert, but grew up here in South Florida. I would just say when you look at a lot of the sports and some of the greats that have come up, is where did it all start? And being here in the marketplace, working with you and the USTA, ultimately bringing the Orange Bowl event here, it's pretty easy to see that it started with Jimmy Evert and what he did, not just with Chris, but with her siblings as well. And just a lot of respect. I've learned a lot about Jimmy Evert as we've done this project, and just an incredible story, incredible lineage, and so much to be proud of.
I'm going to stay with you for a minute here, Eric. You know, when you think about that the Orange Bowl has always been played at a public park, I don't think people know that, but it's part of the history of the Orange Bowl Tennis Championship. How important was it to you to keep this event here in South Florida? And what kind of maybe partnership magic had to happen for it to end up here at Jimmy Evert?
He probably wants to weigh in here a little bit, but right ahead. I came to the Orange Bowl in 1993, and the event was at Flamingo Park, which was the original site of the Orange Bowl International Tennis Championships. And you knew right away this event was pretty iconic to the whole array of Orange Bowl events that we do. Of course, the bowl game is what people turn to. But when you look at the winners and the champions, I mean, it's unparalleled who has won this event. Not just Chris Evert, but Bjorn Borg, John McEnroe, Demario Joe Fernandez, Roger Federer, Coco Gauff. The list goes on. And so it was incredibly important, because when we look through their chronology, it started, at Flamingo Park, moved to hard courts at Crandon Park Tennis Center. Then we went back to the clay court surfaces at another public facility at the Veltri Center in Plantation. And as we went through this latest iteration, A, we wanted to get to an iconic venue. B, wanted it to be, in a public facility that showed the best of South Florida. Not to say that anywhere else we had been didn't do that. But candidly, when we were looking around with the USTA, you were a big part of this, by the way. So thank you. When we finally came to the Jimmy Evert Tennis Center, going back to Chris, I grew up down here, and I look at the greats that have come from the South Florida marketplace for every sport. Obviously, college football is dear to our heart, and there's been so many iconic players that have grown up here in South Florida. But candidly, I can't think of a bigger champion that's ever come from South Florida than Chris Evert. I mean, 18 major titles. And when you look at her history and how many times she won the Orange Bowl, 3 times, she won the Junior Orange Bowl, it resonated with us. And that's the story we brought to you all, the USTA, to say, this is the place it should be. So when it landed here, we're incredibly excited. The renovation here, which I'm sure you're going to get into, just mirrors the prestige of what it is. And I'm so excited that A, it's at the Jimmy Evert Tennis Center, knowing who he was, and B, that the championship court's being named after what I believe is the greatest champion that ever came through South Florida.
Awesome. Doug, I'm going to come to you next. You're such a natural transition here, and I'm sure you do have thoughts on that. One of the uniquenesses about the Orange Bowl and USTA Florida is we were both born right around the same time in the mid to late 1940s. That's when USTA Florida broke away from the southern section. And so many of those players, key players that did that, were also key players in South Florida. Why is tennis itself so important to the mission of the Orange Bowl? And what makes this event so legendary in your mind in the tennis world?
Well, let me just correct the date a little bit. The Orange Bowl football game goes back to the 1930s. Yeah. However, what I think a lot of people don't know is that this is the second oldest Orange Bowl event. Number 2, only behind the football game. And this was originally initiated in 1947. And, I think that from an Orange Bowl perspective, I mean, this just lends itself to our mission, because our mission really is to serve the community and to serve youth, elite sports. And, what could be better than Orange Bowl? So to me, I think the two events go hand in hand.
So, Scott, I want to come back to you for a second because the community thing just sort of triggered a question in my mind. You know, you get to come to these public courts every day. You know, you get to see this play out in real time. How important is it for us to have best-in-class facilities like this in the state of Florida to both foster competition, you know, the Orange Bowl high-level competition, but also just serve our communities and make them better?
Well, I love the fact that you're bringing that up and that Doug mentioned servicing the community, and you're reiterating that as well, because that is a big part of what we do here in the city of Fort Lauderdale. Every morning when you walk in here, every court will be occupied when we're open. And then every evening, every court is occupied as well. So we have a really robust community of tennis players here that utilize these courts quite a bit. And this is Holiday Park. It is the Jimmy Evert Tennis Center. This is one of the most iconic public tennis facilities in the country. And so for the USTA, the Orange Bowl, and the city of Fort Lauderdale to all come together to take part in this renovation, where we now have 20 subground irrigated courts, all beautifully lit, is just an amazing thing for the city and amazing thing for the community. Some of the programs that we'll be offering and bringing in, of course, we'll do our after-school programs. We'll have our evening clinics for the adults, which we're now expanding because we really want to get them from the clinics into the leagues. And that is our ultimate goal, is to get them playing here more frequently. We're going to do a Saturday afternoon junior match play program, which I'm really excited for because that's something that really goes to foster competition, and sometimes from those programs, amazing players come out of those. So we're really excited for all of it. And thank you, Orange Bowl, thank you, USDA, and thank you, City of Fort Lauderdale.
Yes.
Great partnership across the board, and I'm excited to hear about the programs. Anything else that your community can expect when they walk through these doors, sort of the renovation for the very first time?
Well, yes, as far as the renovation, so in the past, all of our courts were watered from above ground, which in the heat of Florida, South Florida, that meant we have to close our courts down every day from 1 to 3, so we'd be closed. We're no longer going to have to do that. These courts will be playable all day long, so that gives us more hours of operation. On top of that, we have this beautiful walkway that goes down the middle of the facility, making it so much easier to get to your courts. We have chilled water fountains filtered throughout the facility. Great viewing on some of these courts where we didn't have great viewing before, and then we have a spruced up, renovated clubhouse that everyone can enjoy.
It's
Could I
definitely more.
add a comment to that?
Sure. Yeah. There you
go. Just a quick comment, but one of the contributions that the Orange Bowl Committee is making is we have committed to spend $1.5 million, and we're going to do that over a period of 10 to 15 years. And that money will be used to resurface the courts every year in October. So the courts will, number one, they will be in great shape for the tournament, but number two, they're going to be in great shape for the community. So the community is going to have a completely renovated facility that will continue to be maintained
for the, at a very high level for the next 10 to 15 years.
I think that's so important that you mention that, Doug. So oftentimes when we see, particularly public tennis centers, get a great renovation, is there isn't enough thought put into how do you sustain that over time. And so often, cities and counties will come to us after it's gone into disrepair. And that's much harder to bring it back to a high level standard. And I can't thank the Orange Bowl Tennis Committee enough for making that commitment, because as you said, it's not just a commitment to the event, it's a commitment to this facility and the whole community. And I know we're grateful as USTA Florida. Our players are grateful. I'm sure, Scott, you're very grateful. Makes your job a little bit easier.
Yes.
So Doug, let's talk about the Orange Bowl for just a minute. I have a feeling that you guys have some very special plans for this year's event. Can you give our audience a little bit of an inside track on what and maybe who they might see here this year?
Well, I think that, in conjunction with the renovation, we are scheduling a ribbon cutting. It will be Monday morning, December the 8th at 10 o'clock. And that's going to be a ribbon cutting and dedication of the newly constructed Chris Evert Stadium Court. And Chrissy has assured us that she will be here. So we are expecting a large crowd. And I think it's going to be exciting. And I do hear through the grapevine that there could be some other tennis celebrities in the audience as well.
Love it. So mark your calendars, December 8th. We all have that down now, and the viewers of the podcast will have the inside track on that for sure. All right, Eric, I know this is just the beginning of this partnership. Beyond the investment in the courts, can you talk a little bit about how the Orange Bowl will continue to support this event going forward?
First of all, I want to thank you, because I think the audience here should know that this didn't come together without the city of Fort Lauderdale, the USTA, and the Orange Bowl, but USTA Florida that came in because, to your question earlier, the importance of public courts. This was an opportunity to elevate something in the South Florida marketplace, and to Doug's description, we believe it's going to be the nicest clay court facility in South Florida marketplace, bar none, because of the investment every year to fix the courts for primarily the residents here, but also for the tournament. Yeah, you know, it's been an incredible conversation with the USTA. In the early 2000s, the Orange Bowl sold the event to the USTA, but under the framework that we would be partners. They were better served to run the tournament and so forth. But we have the tentacles as the community with the city of Fort Lauderdale to make this a great event. One of the big news that's coming out is that the wheelchair championships internationally will now be played as part of this year's Orange Bowl International Tennis Champions. So we're excited about that. The junior elite players are going to come to the marketplace and so forth. A lot of the conversation with U.S. state leadership is, how do we take what was already a tremendous tournament through the years, as recently at the Veltri Center, to another level? So there's a lot of conversations about the experience for participants, for coaches, not just their coaches, but the collegiate coaches that are coming down here, for the residents to take part in it, and to make it just, you know, the tournament it deserves to be. I mean, as I understand it, he knows it better. You know it better than he does. Everybody knows it better than me. That I went to Wimbledon this past year on my own. I've been to the U.S. Open, and I recognize there's a junior tournament that's being played there, and they're very prestigious. But this tournament stands on its own, and it ends the calendar. So we want to make sure it represents and is indicative of the prestigious the tournament it is. A lot of focus on the infrastructure, on the amenities that are provided, the experiential aspect of it. So we're excited.
And I'm excited to have a long-term partnership with you all, and you can count on us certainly for our support every year here. And Scott, you know you have us here every day, so Scott can't escape us ever. So it's just such a joy to have all of you here, and really to see this come together over the last couple of years has been amazing, and I'm grateful for all of you. So my last question for today, when you look ahead to the next 50 years, we'll get our crystal balls out. What do you think the impact of this partnership in the work that we're doing now, particularly here in South Florida, to grow public tennis, will be on the international tennis world 50 years into the future? And we'll start Vika.
Well, that's 50 years in the future. Okay.
We'll all still be here.
I will take you at your word. You have some reservations. No, I just think that, you know, when you look at tennis, I think the lifeblood of tennis is youth tennis. And youth tennis is just something that, you know, a lot of times it gets overlooked at clubs. And I think they don't pay enough attention to it. But if you don't, your facility can wither away. And I just think that, you know, having an event with this amount of prestige and the magnitude of this event that's going to be hopefully played here for the next 50 years, I just think it's going to continue to, you know, grow the sport, not just in South Florida, but around the United States and around the globe.
Love it. Aaron, where do you see us in 50 years?
Yeah. Well, being here at the Orange Bowl, I've been here 32 years. As Doug mentioned earlier, it is truly one of the jewels of Orange Bowl. And candidly, when you look at the composition of participants, the coaches, the collegiate coaches that come in, it's a tapestry of the tennis world. Nationally, internationally, it comes here. And, I think through this process working with you and the USTA and having a partner like this city of Fort Lauderdale, we found, I think, which is going to become a long-term home. We had it on the front end with the Flamingo Park facility, and we had to move a couple times. We're here now. I just see this being in the heartbeat of the city of Fort Lauderdale, heartbeat of South Florida, an event that represents one of the great icons of the sport where it was played, that it's going to thrive here. And as Scott mentioned, this is the beginning, this renovation. You talk to the city of Fort Lauderdale, not speaking for them, but I think they have plans to elevate this facility. I think the Orange Bowl has their real investment in here, not just with our commitment financially, but our hearts are here. So I think this is will thrive and continue to be one of the core elements of Orange Bowl.
Okay. Scott, bring us home. Where do you see
Well,
this place in 50 years?
this renovation and this event, I see it inspiring many tennis players. Whenever the U.S. Open happens, Wimbledon happens throughout the summer, we always experience an uptick in tennis because viewers are inspired to go out and play and try to mimic what those pros are doing. By having this tournament here, I mean, these are the greatest players in the world, under 18 years old. To have them right here and have this tournament that's free and open to the public, we can bring so many people out to see it, and it's just going to inspire the youth. It inspires the adults. I get inspired watching these kids play. I want to go out the next day and play personally, and I play all the time. But when I see these kids play, I want to go out and play. So imagine what that can do to our kids that come here and play, and we'll be encouraging all of them to come watch. So I think that is going to be the long-lasting effect. I think that's going to be one of them. There's going to be many of them, but I see more and more people coming out to play and enjoy this great sport.
Yeah, I think about the vision that you all have painted of, the kids today that are 5 and 6 years old coming here to watch these players, and that they'll be sitting doing interviews when they're 23, 24, 25, playing Wimbledon, playing the U.S. Open, and saying, I fell in love with tennis when I went to Jimmy Evert Tennis Center at Holiday Park and I saw these top players playing, and I thought, man, that looks fun and I want to do that too. And to me, that's the legacy, right? Is to have that happen over and over and over again. And not just in this park, but I hope this will inspire other cities, other professionals in the industry, other organizations in the community to come together and say, we can build this together. And we have a track record of 50 years, 75 years, 100 years of doing this together. So on behalf of USTA Florida, thank you all so much for coming together. I can't wait to see you all meet.
Thank you, Laura.
That's all for this edition of the Here to Serve podcast. Thanks for tuning in. And don't forget to come right here to the Jimmy Evert Tennis Center the week of December 8th as we welcome the Orange Bowl International Tennis Championships. Thanks so much for tuning in and have a great day.